Welcome to the Culinary Student and our new series, Simple and Sweet. Today, we're learning chocolate popcorn. So we're gonna need some ingredients as well as some tools to help us accomplish this delicious snack. First off, we're gonna need a high temp oil. I'm using avocado oil. We're also gonna need unpopped popcorn, pretty important part of chocolate popcorn. And don't forget also the chocolate part of the chocolate popcorn. I'm gonna use a coarse salt as well as a finer salt so I can get a little bit more variation in the saltiness of the popcorn, but you don't have to do that. You could just use one or the other. And then as far as tools, we're gonna have a measuring cup for the popcorn and oil, a pot with a lid so that the popcorn doesn't escape when it pops. We're gonna need a bowl to mix everything in, a knife, and a cutting board. Now this part is actually kind of optional depending on what kind of chocolate you use. Since I'm using a bar, I'm gonna be chopping it up. But if you use small pieces, it's gonna be fine just to mix it straight in. All right, on to the cooking process. So first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna get our pot and we're gonna turn it to high. Now while that heats up, we're gonna take our chocolate. Today I'm using this Icelandic chocolate. Oh, look at that, that's cool. And we're gonna take it and we're gonna bring it down here to chop it. And I'm just gonna get it into small pieces and I'm gonna cut at a little bit of an angle to get smaller pieces. All right, now that that's done, I'm gonna go through it a couple of times. All right, now our chocolate is ready before we even got started over here. It says that you do 3 tablespoons of popcorn per 1 tablespoon of oil for popping, or a 1/4 cup for 2 tablespoons, or a 1/2 cup for 3 tablespoons. I'm gonna put my oil in. Wow. And then we're gonna let that get hot. And of course, if you want, you can always take down the amount of oil you're using. I've gotten down pretty far, at least over half, and I've still had decent results with popcorn. It just has to do with, flavor and crunch. I'm just gonna fast forward this so that when we add in our popcorn, when our oil is nice and hot, you'll tell that the viscosity of the oil gets less and less. So it gets thinner and thinner and quicker movement in the pan. So now that the oil's hot, I'm gonna go ahead and add in our popcorn. Now remember, we had a 1-to-2 ratio, so it's gonna be now is when I'm gonna put the lid on. Now this is a crucial part. You want to make sure that you keep this moving as much as possible. So now is when I'll usually grab a towel, which I know I forgot to mention in the prep list, but it is important. And then I'm gonna wrap it around the top here so that the steam coming out of the lid won't hurt my hands at all. And touching this lid that's getting warm won't hurt my hands. And I can continue, pick it up, shake it around, and put it back on the heat. So if you do this method, you use like a non-stick, or I've even done it in a stainless steel with the oil and the popcorn and a lid, and you're able to shake it like this and move it around, have it in something that's small enough that you can control it, then I haven't seen the necessity to have like one of those popcorn things with like the crank on it and all that. So we're gonna keep this moving as it heats up. So as you can see, just periodically taking it off and shaking it around, making sure it's staying evenly heated. But you can hear that popcorn is getting ready to pop. So the reason it's making so much sound is because this condensation on the top is leaking down into the oil. And when oil and water mix, it is a party. Be sure to make sure your towel, if you're holding a towel when you're doing it on the heat, is not getting burned or anything or getting singed. It's not too close to the heat that you're holding up high. And you could also use hot pads, like I have some here. We're getting close. We're going to go ahead and fast forward till it gets a little poppy. Oh, speaking of it, just happened. First one, second one, third one, fourth one. Can you see them? Yeah. Keep it even. Don't want those pieces that pop first to burn, so you want to keep it moving. If this ever gets hot to you, just feel free to like switch out your towel, flip your hand towels, flip your hot pot holders, I guess. Yeah. So you notice I got a hot pad here because when we get to the end, I'm gonna dump the popcorn over into the blue bowl, and then I'm gonna put the pot onto this hot pad. And this spoon is to mix the chocolate into the popcorn. And it's slowing down. So I'm gonna go ahead and turn off the heat. And I'm gonna set it aside. After we have a couple seconds without popping, there we go. I'm gonna take the lid off, set it down, and then we're gonna dump our popcorn into our bowl. And now is when we're gonna go ahead and salt our popcorn. So I'm gonna take a fine salt and put it over. Toss them in that, and then I'm gonna take a little more coarse salt. And remember, this is just a preference thing. I'll put some coarse salt on it. Put that in there. Now, pro tip, take the kernels out now, or all the chocolate will cling to the kernels, and if you get a good piece of chocolate, you're mostly gonna eat kernel. So, if you're up for the challenge, which I don't have very many, so I'm not too worried about it, but if you do have a lot of kernels, I highly recommend taking them out and then adding your chocolate. You should add the chocolate now while the popcorn is warm. If you add it with your hand, remember it's gonna get warm on your hands, so it's gonna stick to your hands down, which that's a preference thing as well. I'm gonna go ahead and do it for the ease of this, but you're gonna take the chocolate and you're just gonna sprinkle it in. And you ask me, like, okay, you may ask, like, how much chocolate do we put in? If you're to ask my niece and nephew, they would probably tell you more, but but this is how much we're adding today. Just 1 bar for this half cup. Last time I made it, I did 2 bars for half cup, but it was quite chocolatey, which is not a problem. But I'm seeing if I can go make this chocolate last a little longer. See, it's melting to it. And now you have a nice, salty, chocolatey. Delicious popcorn. Thank you so much for joining us for our first ever episode of Simple and Sweet.